Aloha and welcome back to another edition of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where two dudes from halfway around the world talk everything green and gold. I'm Mike, and that's Iowa Joe. Haha, got the point right this time. Unlike the Packers, Joe, just more of the same this week, and honestly, it's getting to the point where it's getting a little bit concerning with where this team is trending right now. But first game out of the bye, I know we kind of talked about what we were hoping to see, but Joe, I take it from intuition that you didn't see what you wanted to see today from the team either.
Well, I'm going to get on my soapbox real quick because I've got a bone and it needs to be picked, and it involves the NFL, and they need to get their shit together. That no more of this select people can only watch select games because it's ridiculous. I mean, we're in the day and age that I can flip on a streaming service and watch whatever fucking movie I want or whatever TV show I want from whatever ridiculous era I want, and I can now even get movies that are still in the theater on my like Amazon Prime or whatever, but I still am only stuck with certain games that I can watch. Unless I want to pop out, $1,000 a fucking year. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not the richest person in the world. I'm not gonna pop out, it's not like I can drop $1,000. Well, I guess it's 500 for the actual thing, and it's 75 a month for YouTube TV or whatever. So you're looking at like $700, $800, and yeah, I don't have that to be dropping on just 6 months. So, uh, and then the NFL wonders why people are using pirated streams and VPNs and shit like that to get around this stuff. Well, it's because we don't have the money to put up. There's over 1 billion people a year that watch the NFL. And that's not an exaggeration. There's over 1 billion people a year that watch NFL games. You got to make it easy for these people to watch. You holler about you want people more interested in this and you want the interactions with that. You're going to start losing them if we can't start getting the games we want. I'm sorry, I don't give a rat's ass about the Chargers or the Chiefs. And that's the game we were stuck with here in my area. So okay. Now to go on to the rant with the rest of it. No, I didn't see what I wanted. It was more of the same, and I got in an argument with a guy on Twitter. It's not just a single person fault. I mean, I could understand if, we had a Josh McDaniel effect where the play calling shit, the player, you still got to, and all that, the offense is shit, the play call is shit, where you can center it on one single person. But I'm sorry, Matt LaFleur can't run the routes for the wide receivers. And we saw more of that shit today where the wide receivers were running wrong routes, or we had 3 wide receivers running the same damn route in the same damn area. They can't open the lanes for the running game. The coaches can't run the ball. The coaches can't play defense. You can only blame so much on the defense before you start having to look at the players. And it's not like we have bad players. It's a young team. We all knew this. This is why, like I did, you did, Mike, and a lot of other people were saying, pounding the table. We need veterans in here. This is what a veteran is there for. The veteran is somebody that so the coach doesn't always have to be that single voice. The veteran adds an extra voice in there to, hey, you did the wrong thing on this route. Next time you need to, instead of running, 5 yards, you need to go a little bit deeper, go 10 yards and then turn in, or you need to cut as soon as the ball is snapped. That's what a good veteran is there for. That's what Mercedes was there for. I know I sound like a broken record saying that we should resign Mercedes Lewis, but when Tanyan had his big year, he credited Mercedes Lewis with helping him with that stuff. Well, you don't get that when everybody is a first or second year player. you've only got the coaches to rely on. Well, if your coaches are struggling with it, then your players are going to struggle with it. If your players are struggling with it, your coach is going to struggle with it because he can only say so much to that person before they're just going to, it goes in one ear and out the other. So, yes, this whole team is not great. The defense has been looking better in a way. I mean, realistically, they held what was it? It was 3 field goals and a touchdown. So they held them to 3 field goals in the first half and a touchdown in the second half, and that was pretty much their scoring, right? I mean, I missed half the game because of the whole NFL thing, but it was 19-17 or something like that. So the defense was doing its part with what they could do. Now, another thing that we're having issues with is the injuries are starting to pile up. Wyatt went down with a knee injury. Watson went down with a knee injury. Savage is down with some kind of injury.
The calf again, same calf. Yep.
Stokes is now dealing with a quad injury. They said he had ice on his quad, and so he was out. Myers, I hate to say this, but I was kind of slowly rooting for Myers to be taken out because they slotted in Zach Tom at center, and they started to produce just a wee little bit.
Now, funny that it took a Myers injury to call the trick play.
Yeah, but they were still able to complete it. There wasn't... Now, Rasheed Walker, I like the guy. I really do. I think the potential is there, but you can tell he's a second-year guy that was a 7th-round draft pick right now. He's going to need the work. He's going to need the play time. You're kind of stuck with it at the moment. But now we know Zach Tom can play center. I mean, we all had the idea because LaFleur and Gutekunst all have said for the longest time that Zach Tom's best position is probably center in the NFL. But they already had Josh Myers and all this. But now we know for sure he can play center. Is it time we move Josh Myers out of there and put slot Nyman at right tackle and leave Rashad out at left tackle, and then have Runyon and Jenkins in there? I thought Runyon had a hell of a game too. I didn't think he was that bad today, what I saw of it. But I'm going to stop talking for a moment and let Mike kind of throw in here because I feel like I've been ranting for too long now.
Nah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, the broadcast rules are stupid because forget the regionality and all that kind of stuff, but just the whole the overtime rules and when they decide to cut away and stuff like that, it's archaic, honestly. But like you said, enough of that. But yeah, they're reaching the point where on defense, yeah, you're just dealing with so many injuries at this point that you're running light on your you're running with half of your preferred guys basically at this point. The Cyclone finally got some snaps. I thought he did a couple good things, had a couple rough plays, but like we've been kind of talking about, that's why you need to play him, is because he needs to get on the field and stuff. But yeah, the offense, I know that's what we're going to focus most of this podcast on, but it was another disappointing first half of the game for them. Like you said, it's not a single thing to point to. It is a failure on every level of the offense, where it's like you said, it's guys who don't know what route they're supposed to run. You had the play where it's a third down. I think Watson ran the wrong route based on how everyone else reacted to the play, but I mean, Jaden Reed almost ran him over because he wasn't expecting him to be there.
Is that the one where it looked like three guys ran the same route because they were all in the same area? It was like Musgraves, Watson, and
I think I have to look at the all 22, but I think Musgrave was running like an outside hitch kind of thing, and then Reed definitely is running a speed out, and the way he reacts, he looks like he's expecting that Watson is supposed to be running a speed out as well, and it would have been open. Like it was there and stuff, but just inexcusable, especially for one of your supposed returning starters to be making that kind of mental error in his second year. It's not a rookie doing it. It's one of your, your quote unquote veterans because who's making that kind of error. Thought again, the game plan, it was so screen heavy. I tweeted it out during the game that screens are supposed to be like a change up, a curveball. You're not supposed to call it every other or every third play, or no one's going to be fooled by it. So you lose effectiveness on screens. I thought, like you said, I thought Runyon had a solid game. I thought Tom looked a lot healthier out at tackle. He looked, it was only like 4 snaps or something, but I thought he looked pretty solid playing center, and Yosh looked good when he came in at right tackle. But it's hard to say what's the most disappointing part of the offense, like you said, because it was all disappointing at different points of the game. It's not any one thing that you can point to and say that's the thing that you should fix. But the disappointing part in that is coming off of the bye, you're still springing leaks all over the boat. You didn't plug any of the holes over the bye. You, like you said, you've got you've got busted assignments in the run game. They tried to call plays to like kind of give Rasheed Walker a bone, and he had a rough sequence of like 3 to 4 run plays where he was just a turnstile. They were calling plays where they're trying to get him on the move out in space on a couple of tosses. They were trying to call some pin and pulls where all he had to do was seal a guy inside, and he was just, you could tell because his head was doing a radar dish. He's spinning in a full circle on every play. Rough sequence, and then you have DeGuara where it's like, well, you just block somebody to give guys a chance. And the ultimate irony of it is I thought AJ Dillon played one of his best games in basically 2 years. He was aggressive running. I thought all of his all 2 or 3 of his negative runs were not at all his fault. Maybe one of them, it wasn't even a negative run. It went for like 2 yards. It probably should have gone for like 4 because he should have just gone straight kind of thing. But the runs where he lost yardage on, none of them were his fault because he never had a chance on any of them. And Jones looked good. And, everyone's saying like, use Jones. The problem is that he's coming off an injury. The last couple games where they've tried to reintegrate him, the Detroit game, he got decleated like every time he touched the ball. And then he was a mystery, last minute inactive against the Raiders a couple weeks ago. So you figured that he was going to have limited opportunities. And he was Aaron Jones in the times that he did touch the ball. But that's the big disappointment on offense. The overarching theme of it is that, Love was a relative unknown going into the season. LaFleur's play calling with Love was a relative unknown, but the elements of the offense that the team was supposed to rely on, the O-line and the run game, have been a distinct just shortcoming of what we were hoping and expecting them to be going into the season. And because of that, you're not getting a good read on what Love is, outside of when he makes mistakes, which, we'll get into, but they're not good to see from a guy who's in his 4th year in the offense. And LaFleur is just you can tell that he's just struggling. He's spinning his wheels in the mud because it's that whole, okay, when you struggle, you go to what your offense's identity is. We've seen a lot of think pieces on it. This Packers offense doesn't have an identity. It's supposed to be the run game and playing off of it. The run game, the run blocking has sucked so far this season. Like I said, today was one of their best games, but how much of that is because you're playing a bad Broncos front seven? But
one to kind of, even though Dillon looked better today, I think there was still a couple of times that you could, he like reverted back, because there was like a couple of times that
danced a little bit too much in the backfield.
Danced a little bit too much, or he made the wrong read. Like, if he would have went to one side, he would have had room to run, but instead he like cut left and got bottled up. So I saw a few of that, but again, I'm not like an analysis type guy that analytics where I can sit here and say, oh, well, he should have hit the B gap instead of the A gap. But it just looked to me that he danced a little bit and then made the wrong read. Because if he would have went one way, he would have got a little bit more yards. He went the other way and he got minimal. So yeah, he still had a good game, but he's still making the same mistakes. And like you were just saying with Jordan Love, he's a fourth year guy. He shouldn't be making those, he should be a little bit more better with this offense. We're still seeing, whereas I can give Jordan Love a little bit of a pass because he's still only started 7 games so far. How many
Yeah.
games has AJ Dillon played?
Yeah, and so the mistakes I'm mostly talking about are later in the game. The first half, I haven't watched the game back, but the first half, I didn't think there was much of anything more that Love could have really done with what they were asking him to do. Everything, it was basically like LaFleur overcorrected. He was like, okay, the downfield passing game isn't working, so we're going to keep everything, quick hitting, short screen game, whatever you want to call it. And, Love, I think he was like 10 of 13 or something in the first half, but he was averaging like 3.6 yards a throw or something like that. So, the completions percentage was up, but, if you're only looking at the stats, it doesn't paint the picture of why the completion percentage was up. And then it just seemed like LaFleur was still, I don't know whether the word is scared, babysitting, whatever you want to call it, overcompensating for, whatever the O-line has done in pass pro, whatever you want to call it, the past couple weeks. But the game plan reflected a play caller who didn't trust his O-line to protect properly. And excuse me. And you saw the effects of that where, like I said, everything was short. Everything was a truncated routes scheme. You saw a lot of wide receiver screens. Some of them worked. Dobbs had one that went for 14 yards. But then you saw other ones like the one Reed got hurt on at the end of the first half where both the guards didn't block anybody. And you just see that, Reed is kind of dead to rights. And that was the play before Anders missed the field goal. But
and we're going to touch on that, Matt Schneidman.
But it was, it was just disappointing because it felt like instead of, trying to establish an identity, LaFleur was like, I'm so worried about X, Y, and Z happening that I'm going to call a overly conservative game plan. And it handicapped what the offense was able to do in the first half. And then when they started to get back to more of the concepts that worked the first few weeks of the season, you saw the offense move the ball a little bit better. And they were able to gain some traction in the first half. So, it's frustrating because while, like I said, Love has been in the system for 4 years. Yes, it's only his 7th start. I know LaFleur is in his 7th game calling games for Love, but it's kind of looking like the end of the McCarthy era where plays are getting called out of sequence, or there don't seem to be necessarily building plays together that play off of each other. And
I think, and to interrupt your thought here for
no, go for it.
And again, I got to repeat, I'm not an analytics guy, so I can't really. But in my layman's view, I wonder if the reason why some of these plays are getting called out of rhythm and that is to try finding something that's going to get Jordan confidence. He's still trying to build, still trying to run a game plan, but build around Jordan's, what's going to get him a quick hitter, what's going to get him, to complete the pass, what's going to get him to stop predetermining things. And we saw that again today, especially late in the game. That last interception to seal the game. Andy Herman was kind of talking about this, and I saw a lot of other guys on Twitter talking about this, that it looked like he predetermined that throw deep to Dobbs when he had Aaron Jones opening free on a screen. And if he would have just took a second more to make his reads, that possibly he could have hit Jones and and at least got him into field goal range for a chance to win. Now I know you'll usually have to go through the all 22 to see what's happening with that, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more in our next episode. But just me watching that, and then seeing what some guys were posting on Twitter, that I think Jordan's still predetermining, and I think LaFleur is trying to make play calls to get him out of that predetermined. All right, you got to
And
make this call,
yeah,
or you got to make this play. Like there was a couple of read options. One specifically where it looked like honestly, and you probably saw this when you were doing a lot of your pre-draft stuff. Whenever you'd watch the Stanford film, where the quarterback just sat there and they were standing in the pocket doing an RPO, and it took them 6 seconds to get the RPO read. And that's what it kind of looked like with one of them with Dylan. It was an RPO, and he just kept holding the ball off to Dylan, and then finally he broke free and tried to make a read on it. Of course, I think it went incomplete or whatever.
Yeah, so the one where he predetermined, that was actually the one where they got the field goal out of. So it doesn't look, it's hard to say when you're pulling it from only the broadcast angle and some stills, but it definitely looked like that. Ironically, that screen had a chance, but look, when you actually run other plays other than screens every other play, a screen will get you, and it would have gotten them, a fresh set of downs to, go. I think they would have been in goal to goal, in a goal to goal situation. So, and I even commented on that when I was like, yeah, you like you said, Joe, you got to go through your progressions. You can't make predetermined reads, and if you are, you have to throw the ball, whether it's on the fringe of inbounds, but that ball he threw to Dobbs on the fade stop, it didn't have a chance, Dobbs didn't have a chance in hell of catching it. So it's like, okay, it's cool if you're going to, just say, hey, I'm going for the end zone on this play, but you got to give your guy a chance. And we've seen Dobbs make that play a couple times this season on a goal line fade.
Jordan make that throw a couple of times.
Yeah. And he wasn't even really getting that much pressure. I think he was just like, I just got to get it out there. And even, his interception at the end of the game, some people were saying like, what are you doing? Like, you don't need, well, my thing is that watching that drive under my breath, I said, once Jenkins got called for holding, I was like, that might be curtains, because you get a holding on that kind of a game situation late in the game, that just torpedoes your drive, and it puts you so far behind.
He still had a shot and enough time that if he would have made a different read, that they would have gotten a field goal range. I mean, guaranteed the player got out of, whoever caught the ball got out of bounds or whatever. Yeah. But they were still within range to hit field goal range.
And then, so, Andy did a breakdown of it, and I agree. At first Andy was saying it was a terrible decision. I don't think it was. I thought it was an okay decision, especially given the game situation. It's 2nd and 20 or 3rd and 20. My whole thing was that throw, just like the one before where Watson might have gotten really badly injured on, the throw was just awful. Toure is open. Love makes the correct determination that he's got a receiver isolated on a safety. Whatever you may or may not think of Toure, that is supposed to be an advantage for the offense. And Simmons is like, he's doing like the combine drill where the DB is backpedaling and then has to bail into, he has to do a full spin to bail to catch up to a route. That's basically where he's got Simmons. The problem is that, and I think, you look at even the touchdown that he did get to Dobbs, Love, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just he can't throw deep. I don't know if it's all the emphasis in the offseason between LaFleur and Love on getting Ark under the ball. I don't know what it is, but that throw was about 5 yards short depth-wise. But more importantly, that ball needed to be out towards the top of the numbers. And what I mean is, when you look at the field from the broadcast angle, the top of the numbers is when you're looking at the numbers and they're right side up to you. That's the top of the number. The bottom of the number is the side of the number closer to the sideline. Yeah. That throw needs to be out there because Toure is running a deep over route, and you've got him running away from the other safety who makes the interception. But Love, and if you get all nerdy about it, the ball floats different in the thin air and stuff like that. So, you combine trying to put air under the ball with maybe the thin air, but Love's just gotta, if he's gonna pull the trigger on that throw, you've just gotta put your weight behind it and swing for the fences on that. I thought you kind of saw shades of that on the touchdown throw to Dobbs, where I thought he tried to make the perfect pass instead of just letting it rip, and luckily Dobbs was able to kind of bail him out on that one. And
yeah, I didn't get to see that one. My stream crapped out.
so it was kind of like, the way I likened it on Twitter was it was the play against Cincinnati in the preseason. They just ran it in the opposite direction, but it was basically the same thing where if with how much separation Dobbs had from Surtain on that play, just throw it at the back pylon that to the side that he's running to. Don't try and touch pass it in there kind of thing and stuff. And I've seen people say like, oh, why didn't he throw it earlier in the progression? There's pressure coming off the edge and stuff. And I got to take a look at the all 22 to see if he could have thrown it earlier, but I thought he did the right move to step up in the pocket there. But I think there's instances where he's predetermining where to go with the ball before the snap, and there's others where he's trying too hard to make the perfect throw, and it's causing issues for him when it comes time to make passes. And like I said, the touchdown to Dobbs is one where it worked out, and the interception is one where it burned him and the team in the end. So,
well, yeah, and to kind of add on to what you're saying is he also needs to learn to when to speed up and slow down his throws, because it looks like he tries to rush it, so he's throwing a fastball when really he should be throwing a changeup. It kind of almost bit him in the ass in that second touchdown, because it bounced off of Dobbs's hands, and luckily it ricocheted right into Jaden Reed's hands for the touchdown. Whereas if he would have slowed that down just a hair, it would have been an okay play for Dobbs to make. Just like like we're saying, not without going over the all 22 and whatever.
yeah.
But it looked like he put too much fire on that, and that's why it ricocheted off of Dobbs. And again, luckily Jaden Reed had the awareness to make the catch off the ricochet.
Yeah. So, like I said, that's the recap on Love. He made some plays, had the team with the lead late in the game, but it was, quite honestly, it was too little too late. And the fact they were in the game speaks more to what kind of team Denver is than, Green Bay, like figuring it out kind of thing and stuff. So, and so at the 6-game mark, the issues with Love is what we were kind of talking about in the preseason, where we need to see an elimination of some of the errors that are, have been there since week 1, where, he's starting to up his accuracy a little bit, whether that's, by proxy in terms of, just throws are shorter and stuff, whatever, he's giving guys more opportunities to make plays. Okay, that's a good thing. But at the same time, he is missing opportunities to make bigger plays in games. And at some point, push comes to shove, you got to start making better decisions. And I don't want to say the hard part about it, but LaFleur, the Shanahan offense, there is a level of the ball should go to this guy to it. And that's not at all an excuse of Love. He still has to go through progressions, make the right read, deliver good passes. Like I said, the throw where Watson got hurt on, that's a terrible throw. The interception, that's a terrible throw. The touchdown to Dobbs, it's a good outcome, but it was a bad throw kind of thing. So I liken the touchdown to Dobbs as when a pitcher throws an off-speed pitch in the wrong spot and the hitter cranks it to the warning track, but there's 2 outs. So it's a good outcome, but it was almost a disaster.
Or swings a little bit too early, and
rolls over it kind of thing and stuff.
50 feet foul or whatever. Yeah,
I get exactly.
So to kind of finalize our whole thing on here, after, what are we? We're going into week 8. What are we feeling on Jordan Love so far? Because we both kind of said last episode that this was going to be like the make or break type of game for Jordan Love. How are we feeling on him now? Just to give him our week 8, grade so far.
So right now, he putting it in college terms, he's getting some flags on his 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 progress report. There's it's hard to put it in those terms, but he's getting some incompletes on projects. He needs to do better on his midterm. Like I said, the arrow is trending down right now. How steep of a down, that's up to semantics, but we haven't seen that step forward that you've wanted to see from him. Like I said, he's making plays, but the problem is that in between making the splash plays, there's too much where the offense isn't doing anything or he's turning the ball over. And no, those aren't necessarily all on Love, but you want to see the signs of a guy that he can overcome. Like I said, there are too many things going wrong at the same time on offense, but you want to see the signs of a guy who's going to overcome some of those issues. And obviously, he can't overcome guys running the wrong routes, but like I said, when the opportunities are there for him to make plays, those are the times that. And I know that it's unfair to say that he can't miss, but he can't do what he did on that interception that ended the game. Like, those are the kind of throws. Like, if he throws it long and he throws it wide and Toure doesn't have a chance at the ball, okay, like, that's not good either, but you still have another down to try and do something. But to come up so woefully short on a throw that it leads to a game-ending interception, that's the kind of thing that he cannot be doing. And like I said, there's the issues are he's having plays where he's making pre-snap determinations on where to go, not going through progressions, terrible ball placement on plays that are there to be made. Those are the ones that are solely in his control, and we're still seeing those things prop up too many times and at the worst time of games. And that's why the arrow is trending downward for me at this point. And it's not, like, you see some who are saying like it's doom and gloom and it's over. It's not over, but we need to see something that makes you think otherwise. And that's where, like we said, that's kind of why you and I pointed to this game as a make or break. Might be too strong, but you needed to see something that was going to change your mind that, yeah, like, the ship is getting turned. Like I said, it can be burning down around him, but at least we can say Love pulled his weight. And it was looking like he was for most of the game, but towards the end, it was like still making the same mistakes, and it cost the team at the end. And like I said, it's not fair necessarily, but when you're the quarterback, that's the kind of microscope you're under. And that, like, kind of going back into the talks we did about what do we need to see, what determines if he's worth an extension. If he can't make those plays with this team needs him to when the game is on the line, you can't pay our version of Daniel Jones $40 million a year. So that's where I'm at right now. It's like I said, it's not signed, sealed, delivered, but the current trends are not great so far.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm not ready to completely give up on him, but I'm also not ready to cement him in as, the next face of the franchise. He's got a lot. I mean, I use this game as make or break because this was the type of game they should have won, just because of how crappy a team Denver has been throwing out there. Next week is going to be kind of the same thing. You've got, I believe it's the Vikings, and you're playing the Vikings, and the Vikings haven't been that great, but they should be giving you more of a fit than what Denver did. So if you go in there against Minnesota like you did against both the Raiders and the Broncos, you're not going to do yourself any favors. Now, if you come out and you play like you did against, second half Saints, first, part of the game against the Falcons, and like you did against the Bears, you're going to have a better shot. And of course, like we keep saying, one of the big problems is injuries. I was just trying to look it up, and the major fear is some kind of ACL or MCL damage to Watson, or at best maybe a bone bruise or whatever that'll keep him out a
Yep.
couple of weeks. But That sucks. And I also saw a lot of people like calling Watson a bust. It- it- Are they forgetting that this kid was super raw coming out of college? I mean, this kid
Yep.
played in a system that had a very slim route tree. It wasn't even really a tree, it was more like a branch more than anything because they didn't run a lot of passing plays. It was a strictly run team. He's got all the ability in the world. Yes, we're having issues with injuries right now. Yes, he's not looking that great out there, but this is year 2. Year 2. I don't know about you, Mike, but when I started doing my draft scouting stuff, long time ago, the rule of thumb was always you had 3 years for a player. The first year was to get yourself NFL ready, meaning, get up to speed because you're not in college anymore. So you've got to get in and get used to the speed of the NFL. Year
And the
2 is
length of
where,
the season. Yep.
and the length of the season. Year 2 was your, okay, now you need to start learning the playbook better. Now you need to get more reps. You need to get in there. You need to get to integrated. Year 3 is where it really counts because year 3 should be the year that everything comes together, and then that's when you start producing. Well, the only time that the 3-year rule doesn't matter is when you're that top 5 talent. Like Calvin Johnson or some guy like that, where they're basically NFL ready when they're still playing in college. They'll come out and be a superstar on day 1. That's when the 3-year rule does not matter. But anything outside of that, the 3-year rule matters because what people fail to remember is in college you play what, 10, 12 games at most. In the NFL, you're playing at least 16 games. 17 now with the week 17, whatever. But if you're a playoff team, you're playing up to 20, 21 games.
Yep.
They're not used to that. So you still got to remember these guys are learning. It's a young team. Not everybody's looking good. You can't hold them to the same standard as you would a 5th or 6th year player. That's why, and I know I sound like a broken record. I know I beat that horse to death. That's why they need a veteran on the team to help alleviate some of that, where you're not relying on a first year or a second year player so much because you've got that wily vet that you can lean on in those cases. So for all these guys calling Watson a bust or Watson is terrible or making fun of people because they still like Watson, shut up. I mean, just shut up. Give it time. Let the kid get fully healthy. Let the kid get some time in the offense. You realize he's going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. It would be different if this was year 2 with Aaron Rodgers or this was year 2 with Jordan Love. He's going from different quarterbacks. It's still the same system, but you're still building off of different play calls, like we were just talking about earlier. You got to give these guys a break. Do I like seeing my team lose constantly? Hell no, I don't like seeing it. But I'm also not going to throw a fit over it because I know it's a young team and we were going to have these growing pains.
Yeah, and like I said, that's where it's hard to isolate Love's play because his and you can't just point to his overall stats. The interceptions, yes, that's like the one stat you can say like he's throwing too many interceptions. And even that, there's some context that you need to take into account. And like I said, that's where my evaluation of Love is. There's plays where he has no chance. Like I said, the one where Watson ran the wrong route and he's throwing to where Watson should be and he's not there. There's nothing he can do about that. The plays where he's got a chance and he comes up short, those are the ones that, like I said, fair or not, there might be only like 2 or 3 of them a game, but those are the ones that, yeah, you got to make those when, like we say, everyone is complaining about how this offense looks disjointed, this and that. LaFleur sucks this year. He's nothing without whatever it may be. LaFleur is still calling a few plays every game where someone is busting wide ass open downfield. Love has to start hitting those plays. Demovsky posted the stat where he's like 6 of 22 with 3 interceptions on plays, 20 plus yards down the field. You know, and I've seen some people say like they got to start taking plays out of the playbook where, you know, you're making certain throws downfield. No, if that's the case in year 4, like I said, yes, I know it's his first full season starting, but you cannot be truncating the playbook. You cannot be truncating a whole section of the playbook because your quarterback cannot make a throw beyond a certain distance. Like I said, we as Packer fans want Love to work out because, one, it means that the organization can expend resources on other parts of the team. Yes, all the time and effort put into developing Love has paid off. But if you cannot run your full playbook because your quarterback cannot make certain throws, that means he's not your quarterback and you've got to go get another one. So, like I said, it's not said and done, but it's not trending in a good direction. We haven't seen any uptick in downfield throwing accuracy or just success rate, things like that. I know Dobbs dropped the one early in the game that would have changed. You know, he had the drop in the first half that would have adjusted, you know, the success rate on throws over 20 plus. So even there, it's not all on Love, but there's been a lot of opportunities where guys have been wide open and they haven't had a shot because Love's been off target with his throw. So like I said, those are the ones that I'm grading him harshest on. But going from talking about things that we can and can't see to things where we have many, many opinions on the defense. And just like the Raiders game, it was another stereotypical Barry game where there are plays where you pull your hair out. There are plays where the Denver touchdown is a play where, like you said, Joe, because of the injuries, you have Jonathan Owens in the game. Carrington Valentine is playing part of the bunch, and Razul is yelling for someone to swap the receivers, and he gets picked off by like 3 different guys. And, you know, everyone's like, oh, Razul sucks. He got burned. It's like, Razul didn't have a chance unless he ran through 5 different people. And it's those kind of things where it's like, yeah, injuries, but also that's a fundamental breakdown on your defense. And the thing you worry about going into this game against the Vikings is, yes, there's no Justin Jefferson, but Cousins is still throwing for like a gazillion yards a game. And this, you know, there was quote unquote defensive success against 2 of the worst offenses in the, you know, one mid-tier in the Broncos and one what was a bad offense in the Raiders. And yeah, they quote unquote had success, but against the 2 more explosive offenses on your schedule, you gave up 25 and 27 points, and that's not a lot, or 34 or whatever you gave up to the Lions, but you gave up 27 and a half to them. So it's like, okay, like, yeah, I guess you're holding down the bad offenses, which sure, that's the signs of a decent defense, but against the 2 better offenses that you faced, you've gotten walked up and down the field again, you know, at certain points of the game. So I don't have much more to really say on the defense, you know, on Barry's coaching than that. Is like, okay, it's another, you know, Perone was kind of saying how you can't, you know, Barry shouldn't be the guy that you're pointing to for this game. And there's some truth in that. But at the same time, it's not to say that his defense is working so well that it's without reproach or anything like that. There, like I said, we'll preview it when we do the preview of the Vikings game. But there are still questions, and you see some leaky plays here and there, and you still see, like I was tweeting out the whole first drive, I didn't think Carrington Valentine was that bad today, but his game looked so bad because he gave up 3 first down throws on, you know, he gave up 3 third down conversions. But to me, that makes me point and go, okay, well, you put a 5'11" corner on a 6'4" receiver, and I don't care if that was Ja. We've seen Ja. That's one of the big negatives on Ja's play, is that he struggles with big receivers. You have a 6'2" corner in Razul who's really good. Yeah, I know that you're running mostly zone and that Denver can cross, you know, that's how they got the touchdown. But it's like the fact that you're not even matching, you know, some to some degree pre-snap, that you're just allowing them to walk a 6'4" guy on your 5'11" corner when you have a tall corner to match up on him. That's the kind of stuff where it's like it's the same old shit. And yeah, it worked out today, but they couldn't get a stop when the offense finally got a lead back. It was too little too late, and Denver was able to kick a not very, it was a 52-yarder, but in Denver especially, that's not that long of a field goal. And so, the scoring numbers look nice again, but in reality, it doesn't really add up, and it paints sort of a false picture, in my opinion. But like I said, you can't go yelling at Barry because his unit by default played better than the offense in this game. And that's kind of all I've really got to say about the defense today.
Well, and you can't blame Barry when your offense isn't giving your defense a rest either.
Right.
You can't let your offense go out there and go 3 and out, half the game and expect the defense to hold their end up the whole time. Trust me, I'm an Iowa fan, and that's the thing we've been dealing with for the last 3 years or longer, is you can't just rely on your defense to do what your offense should be doing too. But I've got a question, and nobody could answer it for me when I posted it on Twitter, but do we know who the 2 call-ups from the practice squad were for this week?
Shoot. I don't know if they had one, honestly, this week, because I didn't. The big one, the roster move I saw was not elevating, but adding Stokes back to the 53-man, and what's it called?
They released Justin Hollins.
Justin Hollins. So I don't remember if they actually had a call up, but
okay, so maybe they didn't. Then that's maybe why I couldn't find anything on it. So here's what I would be doing for next week. I would be calling Jonathan Ford's ass up and getting him to be in the middle there. Is he going to be better? No, but to me, it looks like even with the uncertainty of what's going on with Devontae Wyatt, which looks like could be another knee injury, who knows, could be, something as simple as a meniscus, sprain or whatever. But, he got up, walked off the field, but then they carted him back to the locker room. So we don't know. Carl Brooks has looked all right. Kobe Wooden has looked all right, but they're a bit undersized. So you really need another beefy guy. And here's my thing. You can't also rely on just TJ Slayton as your big beefy guy. And that's what they've been kind of doing. Kenny Clark has been hot and cold lately. There's moments where he flashes his ability, and other moments he gets washed away. Now, is that because he's not getting any help? Whatever. I don't know, but that tells me they need another big beefy body. And we saw that Jonathan Ford had the ability when he got the chance in the preseason. We've talked about it before, where he looked good. The coaches were talking about him unprompted, and all that good stuff. It's time to bring him, at least use a call up on him and say, hey,
you got 3 with him still. So yeah. And like you said, it just makes too much sense with Wyatt. The way that he got carted off, he's probably missing at least a game. So, especially because he went into the game with the knee,
right,
that was on the injury report all week. So yeah.
And so, bring him up this one game because Minnesota is going to run the ball. Yeah, Cousins is going to throw all over the place, but realistically, Minnesota's bread and butter is, the run game. It's went all the way back to Adrian Peterson, Dalvin Cook. Now it's Matson and whatever running back they're using now. But they know what the Packers' weakness is. Even if Ja is back this next week, which knock on wood he is, but whatever, they're still going to attack with the run game because they know the Packers can't defend. I hate to do this, but to quote Mr. Miyagi, no can defend. And that's pretty much what the Packers are doing right now. They can't defend the run. And they have their moments. I know you have on here the edges were actually kind of setting the edges on defense. but still they were getting gashed for a good
It was
amount of
missed
yards.
tackles today. It was
Yeah.
they had plays to be made. I think there was one on what was Javonte Williams' longest run of the day. You had Keyshawn Nixon with a shot in the backfield to get him down, and he just whiffs on the tackle attempt. You got a couple more You got a couple more opportunities like that where Williams broke for like 15 yards and stuff like that, and that's how you end up giving up. What is it? Almost 6 yards a pop on the ground. So, it's here and there, and like I said, the most frustrating part of it is that you're seeing them set an edge, and like I pointed out in our notes for this pod, is it's like the fact that we're seeing them, whereas the first 5 games of the season you didn't see it. And what I mean by it is like, okay, the thing to look for is if you're on the edge. So if from the defense's point of view, if I'm on the left side, I want to engage with my right hand so that my left hand is free. And for all intents and purposes, you're like showing half your body to try and hem the running back in. And we saw that for maybe the first time this season from every edge defender at some point. There were still some plays where they did that thing, and especially when Rashawn's on the field, they allow Rashawn to go up the field and they scrape the inside linebacker to his side over, and he's the edge setter. So we did see that a couple times. I think one of them was on one of the plays where Green Bay like got a stop for like 1 yard or something like that, and Trent Green kind of made a note about how Rashawn got in the backfield. And it just, to see it now, it brings up the point of, okay, so does that mean players were, it's like there's only like 3 or 4 things. Were they not coached to do it? Were they, and I mean by their position coach, were the players just bucking it and saying, screw it, I'm just going to go after the quarterback? Or, and this is the one that I think is most of it, is were guys just saying, is the scheme that whole go defend the run on the way to the quarterback? And like I said, we'll never know, but we talked about it, how you have 2 guys in Rashawn and Lucas who, coming out of college, their thing was they're dynamic athletes, but they set good edges in the run game. And the question is, will they develop as pass rushers? You've seen Rashawn do this flip where now he's this pretty dynamic pass rusher who doesn't set the edge. And Lucas, like I said, I thought it was more injury, but you even pointed out that he was getting a little too nosy and getting himself out of position on run defense. So that was frustrating to see. Like, it's good in the sense that, okay, they're trying to do it, but then it begs into question, where the hell was it to start the season and last season and stuff? So, yeah, like grading Barry is a lot, and the defense as a whole is a lot like grading Love, where, like you said, it's the offense has to protect the defense better. This defense was never built to be keep the opponent to 10 points a game. As much as Jair kind of like joked about it, that like, hey, we just can't give up touchdowns. We gotta limit it to field goals only or stops. This was never going to be a defense to do that. They just don't play with, as cliche as it sounds, defensive mentality is half the battle. You have a coach who preaches aggression, stopping the run. Your team is going to have that identity. The Packers' defensive identity has been keep everything in front and make a tackle, and they can't even do the make a tackle part most of the time under both Pettin and Barry. And you've seen the results of that in their playoff shortcomings. And, the past couple of years, that's where you get the whole, Robert Saleh, at some point, you take them out to the deep water, they're going to drown. That's where those kind of things come out and stuff. So and getting back to how I'm comparing Barry to Love is just like, yes, the defense in a nutshell, it looked good, especially when you compare it to the offense. They held up there. We can parse hairs over whether they should have gotten a stop and gotten the ball back to the offense on the drive where Denver took the lead 19-17. But you hold a team under 20 points, you're expecting to win that game, especially against a team with as bad of a defense as Denver's. And at the same time, the reason I still bag on Barry is that the things that show up against good offenses, they're showing up against bad offenses. And it's not enough where the other team isn't even able to make enough plays, or they're making just enough plays to take a lead, but not enough to blow a game wide open. But when you see, like I said, putting the wrong corner on their big receiver, like I said, they played better with their fronts today, but there were still times where Barry's lining guys up and getting outflanked pre-snap. Those are the kind of things that they're not going to necessarily kill you against a bad offense, but that's what leads to giving up 27 points and a half to the Lions, not being able to get a stop in the second half against the Falcons, things like that. So those are the ones where it's, by points allowed, it's like a B plus A minus kind of grade, but I think it's gold, it's gold shavings on the top. It's not real gold. You got a gold layer on top of like rock kind of thing and stuff, and it's just paper macheing over a lot of issues. They're not necessarily all things the Packers are doing. The other team's offense being as bad as it is what's also contributing to the success of the Packers defense. And I think we're going to find out a lot about it in the next few weeks. Westendorf, he had a tweet where it's like the next 5 games are Minnesota, the Rams, the Steelers, the Chargers, and the Lions again. I know that, the Steelers offense isn't great. The Rams have struggled. The Vikings have struggled, but those are teams that have the ability to take advantage of what Barry's system struggles with. So we're going to find out how real his, points per game allowed is and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I really don't have anything more to add than what you said, because it's like it's complacency. It's like we say about the offense, where they feel like they don't want to pull somebody and put somebody else in there, or they don't want to make a move to bring somebody else in and get rid of other people. I mean, and I know the big joke right now is, nobody believes Zane Anderson is an actual person. And the main reason is because he's taking up a roster spot. And that's plain and simple. He's doing nothing and he's taking up a roster spot. There's nobody else in the thousands of people that are capable to play at the NFL that can fill that spot that Zane Anderson's taking up. Or,
Yeah. That's a big part of the reason you and I have been banging the table for Anthony Johnson Jr. to be active on game days, because it's like, sure, you can load this position with core special teams players, but you have one guy in Savage who, he's having a solid year. It's not resetting the narrative on him, but he's having a solid season. You have a guy in Ford who, he has interceptions in the 2 weeks leading up to this game, but he's not the future at safety. And then you just got a bunch of guys who are playing because of special teams. And if you see them on defense, you're just like, well, yeah.
And that's the thing with Jonathan Owens, is he can play the run, but he can't play the pass, which sucks. I mean, if you could maybe bulk him up and move him to like a hybrid inside linebacker, it might be a little bit better. But at this point in his career, there's no way that's going to happen. And this is where they kind of miss a Tariq Carpenter type player that could play both safety and inside linebacker. And not saying that the inside linebackers have been playing bad. I mean, McDuffie has been a pretty solid guy. Quay, when, he's out there, has been pretty solid. And even Eric Wilson has stepped up as needed when he's been called upon. So, but yeah, the complacency there. What's the other safety that they brought in? Levitt. Is Levitt really giving you that much play on special teams to deserve a roster spot? I mean, we could probably go through who's currently a free agent in the NFL right now and pick 2 or 3 guys we would rather have over the guys we have right now. Like Rudy Ford, Zane Anderson, and Dalvin Levitt and Jonathan Owens. I mean, but I get it. We're not we're not talent evaluators. We're not, working front offices and all that. But it's this complacency is getting sick and tiring.
No, and complacency is an excellent word to use for what Barry's defense has done the past 2 weeks because, like I said, they've, by points allowed, they're doing good. But like I said, they're allowing that outcome to say, okay, we don't need to make too many changes because what we're doing is working. And then when you peel back a layer, you're kind of like, is it really? It's the whole, they're the better unit by default because the offense has just been a dud for a half and then can't do enough to offset being a dud for a half. So, like I said, I think that's going to come to light when we start to play better offenses in the next few weeks. But we'll put a bow on the defense there because we're just kind of shouting into the ether. But just to put to wrap it up, we're not impressed. Like as nice it is to see that we only gave up 19 points, it was an impressive route to giving up only 19 points. But going to what has been the most consistent unit on the team, special teams. Okay, I know you've been saving this one up. Carlson finally missed one this season, and I'm gonna let you take it away on this one.
Well, there's two people that take the blame for this: Matt Schneidman and the announcer Kevin
Harlan, Bob Harlan's son.
Because the two of them jinxed Anders so bad. Schneidman did it with his tweets throughout the week. Kevin Harlan did it in his commentary leading up to the kick. But in all, I just, you guys were talking it up too much. Even if you don't believe in like religious stuff or whatever, just call it karma or something.
The sports gods are never wrong.
Right, and they overcorrected on you guys friggin' talking this up. So Matt Schneidman, you owe me like 50 laps right now. Kevin Harlan, I'll give you a little bit of a reprieve because you're a little bit an older guy, but you just,
and we love Bob Harlan.
You just can't do that stuff.
And I know that no one play changes, but if you make that field goal and everything else plays out up to the point when they get the second touchdown and you would be up 20-16 as opposed to 17-16, that changes what Denver has to do on the end. Let's be totally honest, Barry's defense probably gives up a touchdown with no time left instead of a field goal with time left and a chance to take the game back. So but it does change how the rest of the game goes and stuff. So yeah, it's unfortunate. And the part that we've kind of been talking about the whole season is that, so Anders' first kick, he hooked it left. And if you watch how he kicks the second field goal, the one he made, he's pushing it right. So it's like, like in my head, I was kind of like, it's a good thing that was a short field goal because he definitely overcorrected for the, whatever happened on the first one, he definitely overcorrected.
That's been the constant thing we've talked about all year is he like overcorrects himself on the next kick. So yeah, it's a good thing on that, but I can't really put too much blame on him because he's been like the lone bright spot in the whole Packer unit. And kind of like we were talking with Jordan Love early on in the season, we knew at some point there was going to be a little bit of a drop just because he was, to use the saying, out kicking his coverage on stat wise, because in college he was an 80% kicker or like an 82% kicker or something like that.
I think 70s or something like that.
Yeah. So there are going to be misses. We hadn't seen it up till now, which is a good thing, but at least it wasn't a Bengals Mason Crosby type thing where,
or that Detroit game. Yeah.
Yeah. From that point on, he just continued to miss. Now, like you said, he did kind of overcorrect. And if it was a longer field goal, he probably would have shanked it, but whatever.
At least his PATs after that looked a little bit more down the middle again. Right. But yeah, it definitely does. Like I said, it acknowledges what you've been kind of talking about, where it's like, like I said in the Bears games, where it's kind of like, oh, like just give him another good field, like give him another give him another operation and work through, the snap to the hold to the kick and stuff. But like you said, it might be better to just let things lie as they are, and we kind of saw that a little bit where he missed it left and he pushed the next one right, kind of thing. So yeah, it's like you said, those are the kind of things that are going to happen, and that's just kind of what the going rate is when you go young. And that's it's not an excuse, but it's a young team everywhere, and you're seeing the youth spill its cup spilleth over too many times. And like I said, that's the most disappointing thing about this game, is that it would be one thing to be making physical errors, but they're still making too many mental errors for a team that's played 3 games in like 23 days or whatever the stat was. So that's the part that's the most disappointing for this team, to be struggling the way it is. And they, like I said, they don't have many times to reset. The only time they have left at this point is the mini bye after that Detroit game in 5 weeks. So they're gonna have to just figure it out under the gun at this point. And pressure does one of two things: it breaks you or it makes diamonds. And so far they've crumbled under the pressure of, not necessarily expectations, but just the things that need to be done to be a successful team. They, Love kind of mentioned it, that they've had their chances, but they haven't come up with, they haven't made the most of the opportunities when they've been before them. So, it's good that they're in the games. Like I said, how real they're being in these games late is, a little bit of fool's gold in terms of, how bad the opposing team is. But when the opportunity's there, that's the part that we have to grade them on. And so far, it's not a glowing review for this team.
Right. And the only other thing that, and I don't know if you caught it or not, but I want to say one of the commentators said that Whelan was like dead last in net
Yeah.
front yards.
Yeah, I did catch.
That sounds weird to me, because he's been looking
why?
pretty good.
You got to remember, I know we've punted a lot this season, but that punt return touchdown, and he has a shank. He has the punt return. So the punt return touchdown is negative 40 yards or whatever. And, it's like a bad grade on your GPA. That's going to take the whole season to equalize out. So that's a big reason that he's dead last in net yardage. I'm willing to bet that the Bills punter is probably not far ahead of him, I guess, since Whelan is last. But because the Bills lost the week 1 game to the Jets because of a punt return touchdown, I'm going to guess that the Bills punter is like down towards the bottom too. So it sounds worse than I think it really is, because like you said, he's boomed several punts every game, but I do think that he's got like 1, maybe 2 shanks, and then he has the punt return touchdown against New Orleans that I think is dragging down his average.
That makes sense, but it felt weird when they said that he was dead.
Yeah, especially as he's like he's in the process of booming one into the end zone, right? So yeah, it kind of sounds a little weird, but I do think there is tangible reason for why that's the statistic. But yeah, do want to see him crawl up. But like I said, it's gonna take several more games of like, he's gonna have to just pop a few 60-yarders to dig out of that hole created by the punt return touchdown.
Or he's just being a placeholder until Tory Taylor comes out next year.
Hey, I'm all for that.
But I think we should probably wrap a bow on this. So
yeah, who you got for your MVP of the day today?
I don't know. It's basically throw a dart at the dartboard. We'll say Runyon, because he seemed to not have that bad of a game, and I really didn't hear his name called too much, other than a couple of plays where he made some decent blocks or whatever. Or I think there was one where he had to I just lost the word. They pulled Runyon, and he made a solid block for a big gain or whatever. So just because really I can't think of, maybe Jaden Reed, just because of the heads up play in the end zone for the touchdown, but outside of that, I really don't have anything. So we'll just say Runyon.
Yeah, I'll go with Dylan. I'll give him his flower. Like you said, there were still, the negative plays that weren't his fault, but also the head scratching ones where it's like just go, just put your pedal down and go kind of thing. But I thought overall he played a good game. He was running aggressive. We saw him deliver punishment to defenders. And it's just unfortunate that the game ended the way it did, because if they go down and score, his 29-yard reception is a big reason why they were in, they were in position to march down the field and get the game-winning score. So, just because of how the game ended up, he was the team's leading receiver, so that counts for something. But that's my MVP. LVP, it's harsh, but Jordan, you got to make the plays down the stretch your team needs you to. I know it's unfair, it's harsh, but when you're the quarterback, that's the pressure that's put on you every week. And it's another game where he came up short when the team had an opportunity and needed him to make a play.
I got co-LVPs, and it's not really any players per se, but I'm going to go with tight end coach John Dunn and Matt LaFleur. They're really like kicking the can with the tight ends that they have right now. I know Musgrave has been looking pretty solid so far, but Ben Simmons had that one solid catch. What game was that? That was
last week against the Raiders.
Was it the Raiders game?
Yeah, the one he took the quick arrow and he turned it up for a first down. Yeah,
and he was running over people and all that. That's the type of tight end. And for two screwing up Tucker Kraft, because they're trying to make him the Mercedes Lewis of the group when he should be the bowling ball type of tight end. And I know we've talked about this before, and I think they're really screwing up this tight end group outside of maybe Musgrave, even though I'm still have question marks on him because he's still a single contact runner. Once he gets that first contact, he's pretty much done. But I mean, he's done good things, but really screwing up. And I can't really, I mean, you could throw DeGuara out there too. I don't think he's ever going to be this big thing, but when Jordan Love would play in the past, his safety net was DeGuara, and now we're not even seeing DeGuara involved at all. Well, I mean, you see matters.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But now, like I said, really screwing up the Tucker Kraft. I think Tucker's going to be this next big thing? No. But you can't just use him purely as the Mercedes Lewis blocker. Because as we've talked about before, he's not that blocking tight end.
Right.
He's a capable blocker. He's a willing blocker, but he's not a pure blocker. He's the type of guy you give the ball to him and he's going to run over or carry the tacklers, the scrum for positive yards.
Yeah. I get that they're trying to manufacture touches for Musgrave, but it doesn't do you any good if you're throwing him the ball at 2 yards, because like you said, that's just not his game. And, maybe it will become his game. Maybe it won't. But if he's going to be a one contact guy, put him 15 yards down the field. So at least it's a first down when he catches the ball down there, kind of thing.
So here's what you do. You take them ankle weights and you strap them onto them, and that simulates an ankle tackle. Then you give some of them rotating dummies with the arms out, and you just make them run through there with the ankle weights on like a dozen times a game, or I mean a dozen times a practice. And we'll fix. You get me up there. We'll fix this single contact runner.
That's all on you, because I shouldn't be teaching anyone to run. So we'll just leave it at that. I can't
run to save my life, but I'm going to teach this guy not to go down easy.
I know. But we've talked about that. We've talked a lot about it, but we'll just wrap a bow on this one. It was overall, the score was a lot kinder to the Packers than how disappointing of a game it was coming off the bye. But no time to shed any tears about it. They've got to bounce back. They have a division game, and like I saw someone tweet, they're only one game or a half game out of the wild card at this point. So, no one's going to feel sorry for them. And if they're going to, it starts with getting that next win and getting back towards 500. So week 8. That's the next step in that journey. But that's gonna do it for us. Please.
And I just want to say, I'm calling you out, Matt Schneidman. No more of this crap, or I'm going to come see you. I don't care if I'm a 37-year-old out of shape cripple. I will come see you, and I will kick you in the kneecap.
Bring him down to your level, right?
I will. Everybody's the same size when they're laying flat on the ground.
Ain't that the sad truth? But that's going to do it for us this week. Appreciate you joining us on this episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. Jesus. Please give us a follow on our Twitter accounts. I'm at Kawana Mike. Joe is at Iowa_Joe86. The podcast is at Ohana_Packers. Please follow. Please give us a like and a subscribe on your favorite podcast apps, sites, however you get your podcasts. Please leave us comments. We take them positive, negative, any way we can get them. Also, bookmark our website, ohanapackers.org. The streams of the podcast.
Give Mike a pat on the back. You know, this last article was a really good, well-written article, so go check it out about the what was it, 4 guys that could likely be on the move, and he'll have a follow-up here soon. So, you know, to kind of give him a pat on the back, it was good. So go check it out, leave a note, drop him a comment or whatever, and let him know how he's doing.
Yeah, appreciate it. Seen some feedback on Twitter already, so that was nice. But yeah, just follow along with us. It's and Herman, I think it was Andy Herman said it, and to quote the owner of the company that does the pools on Insane Pools, it's a Discovery Family of Channels show. This is going to get worse before it gets better, if it does get better. So, hey, we're in it for the long haul. So, if you need any views of the bright side, or just somewhere to hear people who might be thinking the same things you are, give us a follow. And until next time, we say mahalo and aloha.